What if I told you that right now, somewhere in Montana, there's a family driving an SUV that's seen 3 presidential administrations, survived 2 teenagers learning to drive, and still starts every single morning without complaint? What if that same SUV had hauled countless camping trips, endured brutal winters, and crossed the country more times than most people fly in a lifetime? And what if I told you there are 9 SUVs out there that don't just dream of reaching 400,000 miles, they laugh at that number and keep going? While most vehicles today are designed with planned obsolescence in mind, these 9 mechanical marvels represent something different entirely. They're the last of a dying breed, the overbuilt, undercomplicated machines that refuse to quit. Today, we're counting down the most indestructible SUVs ever made, starting from number 9 and working our way to the absolute king of reliability, 9 Honda CR-V. Let's kick things off with a vehicle that's been quietly dominating driveways across America for decades. The Honda CR-V doesn't look like a world beater, it's not imposing, it doesn't have aggressive styling, and it won't turn heads at a stoplight, but that's exactly why it's so brilliant. Honda built the CR-V with one philosophy in mind: make it work and keep it working no matter what. The secret sauce here is Honda's K-Series engine, one of the most reliable power plants ever bolted into a consumer vehicle. This isn't some over-engineered marvel with a dozen turbochargers and variable valve timing that requires a PhD to diagnose. It's a straightforward, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that does exactly what it's supposed to do, every single time. Owners regularly report seeing 300,000 miles on the original engine and transmission, with nothing more than routine oil changes and the occasional brake job. What makes the CR-V truly special is how it ages. Most vehicles start showing their wear around 150,000 miles. Seals dry out, electronics get temperamental, strange noises emerge from the dashboard. Not the CR-V. This SUV seems to operate in a different dimension of entropy, where the normal rules of mechanical decay simply don't apply. The interior plastics stay intact, the climate control keeps working, the power windows continue their smooth journey up and down like they did on day one. There's a reason you see older CR-Vs everywhere, still serving as daily drivers, still hauling kids to soccer practice, still making the grocery run every week. They're not collector's items or garage queens. They're working vehicles that simply refuse to die. Honda's attention to the smallest details means that everything from the door hinges to the hatch struts seems to last forever. It's not exciting, but when you're staring at a mechanic's estimate for thousands of dollars on a different vehicle, boring reliability suddenly becomes the most exciting thing in the world. 8. Lexus GX470. Now we're stepping into luxury territory, but don't let the Lexus badge fool you. Underneath that premium leather and those wood trim accents beats the heart of a genuine workhorse. The GX470 is essentially a Land Cruiser Prado wearing a tuxedo, and that Toyota DNA runs deep through every bolt and bearing. The 4.7-liter V8 in the GX470 is legendary. Toyota's approach to engine design during this era was almost comically conservative. Where other manufacturers were chasing horsepower numbers and 0 to 60 times, Toyota was building engines with tolerances so tight and materials so robust that they could probably survive a nuclear winter. The result is an SUV that feels just as solid at 250,000 miles as it did rolling off the showroom floor. What's remarkable about the GX470 is how it handles neglect. Now, we're not advocating for skipping maintenance, but the reality is that not every owner keeps perfect service records. Some vehicles punish you severely for this. The GX470 just shrugs and keeps going. Miss an oil change? It'll forgive you. Wait too long on a transmission service? It'll manage. This isn't because the maintenance doesn't matter, it's because Toyota built so much redundancy and over-engineering into the platform that it has margins for error that other vehicles simply don't possess. The body-on-frame construction means this SUV laughs at rough roads and heavy loads that would twist a unibody crossover into a pretzel. The full-time four-wheel drive system is bomb-proof. The air suspension, when properly maintained, outlasts similar systems from European competitors by a comical margin. Owners frequently report 300,000 to 400,000 miles without major component failures, and when something finally does break, the repair costs are reasonable because mechanics actually know how to work on these trucks. 7. Outback. Here's where we include something a little different. Yes, technically the Outback started life as a wagon, but modern iterations have grown into proper SUV territory with their increased ride height and all-wheel drive capability. And when it comes to longevity, the Outback deserves a spot on this list because it does something remarkable. It makes high mileage accessible to regular people. Subaru's boxer engine configuration gets a lot of attention, and for good reason. The horizontally opposed design creates a lower center of gravity and better balance, but it also creates an engine that's surprisingly durable when properly maintained. The key phrase there is properly maintained. Subarus demand respect. They want their oil changes on time. They want quality fluids, and they especially want their head gaskets checked and replaced when needed. Give a Subaru Outback what it asks for, and it'll reward you with 300,000 miles of adventure. The symmetrical all-wheel drive system is where Subaru truly shines. Unlike part-time systems that engage only when needed or overly complex systems with a dozen electronic actuators waiting to fail, Subaru's setup is elegantly simple. Power goes to all four wheels all the time through a system that's proven itself over millions of miles in some of the harshest conditions imaginable. Vermont winters, Colorado mountain passes, Pacific Northwest rain, this drivetrain handles it all without complaint. What makes the Outback special for longevity is the owner community. Subaru has cultivated a following of people who actually care about their vehicles, who form communities, share knowledge, and help each other keep these cars running. This means that when you buy an older Outback, you're not just buying a vehicle, you're buying into a support network of people who can tell you exactly what to watch for, when to do what maintenance, and how to keep it running forever. 6. GMC Yukon. American trucks and SUVs get a lot of criticism, often deservedly so. But the GMC Yukon represents General Motors at its absolute best. This is a full-sized body-on-frame SUV built on the same platform as Chevy Suburbans and Tahoes. And when you get past the early 2000s models with their transmission troubles, you find an SUV that's engineered for serious longevity. The key to Yukon's durability is its simplicity at scale. GM has been building these trucks for decades using many of the same fundamental designs, which means they've had time to figure out what works and what doesn't. The small block V8 engines, particularly the 5.3-liter and 6.0-liter variants, are legendary for their durability. These aren't exotic power plants with cutting-edge technology. They're pushrod V8s using design principles that date back decades, refined and perfected over time. What's brilliant about the Yukon for high-mileage ownership is parts availability and service knowledge. Any mechanic in America can work on one of these trucks. Parts are everywhere. They're relatively affordable, and there's a massive aftermarket if you want to upgrade or customize. This means that even when something does eventually wear out at 300,000 miles, fixing it won't require a second mortgage or a 3-month wait for parts from overseas. The Yukon also benefits from its mission as a towing and hauling vehicle. GM built these trucks to handle serious loads day in and day out. That means heavy-duty components, robust cooling systems, and drivetrains that are significantly overbuilt for normal daily driving. When you use a Yukon just for commuting and family duties, you're operating it well within its capability envelope, which extends its life dramatically. The frames don't crack, the suspensions don't sag, and the engines don't struggle because they were designed for much harder work. 5. Toyota Sequoia. If the GX470 is the Land Cruiser in a tuxedo, the Sequoia is the Land Cruiser in work boots, and it's just as indestructible. Toyota took everything they learned from decades of building trucks that could survive the Australian outback and African deserts and poured that knowledge into a family SUV for the American market. The first and second generation Sequoias, particularly those with the 4.7-liter and later 5.7-liter V8 engines, are mechanical time capsules of Toyota's golden era of over-engineering. These engines don't just last, they seem to improve with age, like a cast iron skillet that gets better the more you use it. The timing belt on the 4.7-liter requires regular replacement, but owners who stay on top of this maintenance regularly see 400,000 miles and beyond, with no engine rebuilds, no major repairs, just fluid changes and the occasional sensor replacement. The Sequoia's frame is a work of art in steel. It's fully boxed in critical areas with massive cross members that could probably survive a building collapse. The suspension components are sized for a vehicle twice as heavy, which means they barely break a sweat under normal use. Even the exhaust system, typically a wear item on most vehicles, seems to last forever on a Sequoia, because Toyota specs stainless steel components and routes everything away from maximum heat exposure. Where the Sequoia really proves its worth is in the details most people never think about. The wheel bearings are massive, overbuilt units that outlast competitors by tens of thousands of miles. The alternator and starter are sized generously and built to commercial-grade standards. Even the radiator uses thicker cores and more robust construction than you'd find in a comparable domestic SUV. Toyota wasn't trying to meet a price point with the Sequoia, they were trying to build something that would still be working long after the final payment was made. 4. Jeep Wrangler. Now here's a controversial inclusion, and we can already hear the comments. Yes, Jeep's reliability reputation has taken some hits in recent years, and modern Wranglers with their complex electronics and turbo engines are a different breed entirely. But we're talking about specific generations here, particularly the TJ models from 1997 to 2006 and the early JK models with the 3.8-liter V6. These Wranglers, when properly cared for, are nearly unkillable. The secret is in what the Wrangler doesn't have. No complex unibody structure to crack and flex, no elaborate electronic systems requiring constant updates, no sophisticated all-wheel drive with a dozen failure points. The Wrangler is a body on a frame with solid axles front and rear, the same basic design that's been working since World War II. This simplicity is its superpower. The inline-six engines in older Wranglers, particularly the 4.0-liter, have achieved mythical status among off-road enthusiasts. These engines are nearly bulletproof. They don't make a lot of power, they're not particularly efficient, and they sound like an old sewing machine, but they run forever. 300,000 miles is considered broken in for a 4.0-liter Jeep engine. The block is cast iron, overbuilt, and understressed. The head is simple with minimal potential failure points. Change the oil regularly, and these engines will outlast the body, the frame, and probably your will to keep driving something with the aerodynamics of a brick. What makes the Wrangler special for longevity is the culture around it. These aren't just vehicles, they're platforms. When body panels rust, you replace them or just take them off entirely. When mechanical components wear out, there's an enormous aftermarket ready to supply upgrades that are often better than the original equipment. The Wrangler isn't just a vehicle that can last 400,000 miles, it's a vehicle that owners want to keep for 400,000 miles because they've personalized it, modified it, and made it truly theirs. 3. Lexus LX470. We're entering the elite tier now, and the Lexus LX470 is where luxury meets genuine expedition-grade capability. This is a Toyota Land Cruiser with every possible luxury feature, but underneath that opulence is one of the most over-engineered vehicles ever sold to the public. Toyota built the Land Cruiser to survive the worst conditions on Earth, and Lexus simply added massage seats and premium audio. The 4.7-liter V8 in the LX470 shares its DNA with the engine in the GX470. But this application is even more robust. The cooling system is sized for desert crossings. The oil capacity is generous, reducing thermal stress. The timing belt, while requiring periodic replacement, drives a valve train that's so precisely machined, it maintains perfect timing over hundreds of thousands of miles. Owners regularly report 400,000 miles on original engines with nothing more than gaskets and seals replaced. What separates the LX470 from lesser SUVs is the attention to every single system. The air conditioning compressor isn't just adequate, it's overbuilt. The interior is where the LX470 really shines for longevity. While other luxury SUVs from this era have interiors that look tired and dated, the LX470's cabin ages gracefully. The leather is thick and high quality. The wood trim is real and well sealed. The electronics are simple enough to be reliable, but sophisticated enough to still feel modern. 20-year-old LX470s exist with interiors that look barely used because Lexus didn't cut corners on materials. They use the good stuff everywhere, and it shows when these vehicles hit high mileage. 2. Toyota Land Cruiser. Here we are, the penultimate entry, and it could only be one vehicle. The Toyota Land Cruiser isn't just an SUV, it's a statement of intent from Toyota. This is the vehicle they send to the places where breakdown isn't an inconvenience, it's a death sentence. United Nations peacekeepers drive Land Cruisers. Australian ranchers checking on livestock hundreds of miles from civilization drive Land Cruisers. When Toyota wanted to prove their engineering prowess to the world, they built the Land Cruiser. The numbers on these vehicles are almost absurd. 500,000 miles isn't unusual for a well-maintained Land Cruiser. 600,000 isn't unheard of. There are documented cases of Land Cruisers exceeding 1 million miles on original engines and transmissions. These aren't highway miles either. These are hard miles through deserts and jungles, over mountains and through rivers, towing heavy loads and carrying maximum payloads. The Land Cruiser doesn't just survive this treatment, it seems purpose-built for it. What's remarkable is how Toyota has maintained this standard over decades. Whether you're looking at a 1980s 60 series, a 1990s 80 series, or a 2000s 100 series Land Cruiser, you're looking at a vehicle built to the same exacting standards. Sure, the newer ones have more technology and comfort features, but the fundamental engineering philosophy remains unchanged. Build it strong, build it simple where possible, and test it until it's absolutely bulletproof. The Land Cruiser community is filled with stories that sound like tall tales, but are absolutely true. 1. Toyota 4Runner. And here we are at number 1. And yes, we're staying in the Toyota family because when it comes to building SUVs that absolutely refuse to die, nobody does it better. The Toyota 4Runner takes the crown not just because it's incredibly reliable, but because it represents the perfect balance of capability, affordability, simplicity, and proven durability. This is the SUV that will still be running long after everything else on this list has finally called it quits. The 4Runner, especially the 4th and 5th generation models, is built on the same fundamental platform as the legendary Tacoma and shares many components with the Land Cruiser and Sequoia. But what makes the 4Runner special is how Toyota has resisted the temptation to overcomplicate it. While other manufacturers loaded their SUVs with complex systems and cutting-edge technology that becomes obsolete within years, Toyota kept the 4Runner simple, traditional, and focused on doing a few things exceptionally well. The 4.0-liter V6 and the 4.7-liter V8 found in various 4Runner generations are masterpieces of reliability engineering. These engines make adequate power, nothing spectacular, but they're built with massive safety margins. The internal components are sized for engines making far more horsepower. The oiling system is robust and maintains pressure even under extreme angles. 400,000 miles on these engines is common. 500,000 is achievable. And the best part? When something finally does wear out, repair costs are reasonable because the design is straightforward and parts are everywhere. The body-on-frame construction gives the 4Runner a fundamental durability advantage over unibody crossovers. The frame can handle real abuse, real loads, and real off-road use without cracking or fatiguing. The body panels are thick steel that's properly coated and protected against corrosion. Even in Rust Belt states, properly maintained 4Runners hold up remarkably well because Toyota actually cares about rust prevention in ways that American manufacturers have historically ignored. What truly sets the 4Runner apart is its mission. Toyota didn't design this SUV to be the fastest, the most luxurious, or the most technologically advanced. They designed it to be the one that keeps working, the one that starts on the coldest morning, the one that gets you home when the road turns to mud or snow, the one that's still running strong when you're trying to decide if your teenager is responsible enough to inherit it. This philosophy permeates every decision in the 4Runner's design. The aftermarket for 4Runners is enormous, which speaks to both the vehicle's popularity and its longevity. When people keep vehicles for 400,000 miles, they want to modify them, improve them, and personalize them. The fact that companies invest in developing products for 20-year-old 4Runners tells you everything you need to know about how long these vehicles last in the real world, so there you have it. 9 SUVs that treat 400,000 miles not as an end goal but as a milestone along a much longer journey. In a world of planned obsolescence and vehicles that feel disposable, these 9 represent something different. They represent engineering integrity, proven reliability, and a commitment to building things that last. Whether you choose the luxurious reliability of a Lexus, the legendary toughness of a Land Cruiser, or the perfect balance of a 4Runner, you're choosing a vehicle that will likely outlast your desire to keep driving it. And in today's automotive landscape, that's not just impressive, it's practically revolutionary. These are the SUVs that will be running long after the last software update has been pushed to every connected car on the road. They're proof that sometimes the old ways really are the best ways.